Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, a new homeless storage center is proposed, but the issue is always a controversial neighborhood topic.
Well, it wouldn't be easy for them to get here. They'd have to take buses and stuff, and there's only one bus route over here off 54th.
Where the city wants to put the facility and how locals are responding. Plus, proposed development in Otay Ranch meets with opposition from environmental groups. We are live with both sides of the argument. And the list for California's top beaches is released. How do San Diego beaches measure up? We have the results. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. It's Wednesday, June 26th. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thanks for joining us. The San Diego Mayor's Office has announced a proposed location for a new homeless storage facility. KPBS reporter Priya Sridhar tells us where the city wants to put it.
Maya, that city-funded storage facility would be located right here. It's an area on 54th and Leah Streets, just outside of City Heights. Let's take a look at a map to see exactly where we're talking about. This location is just south of University Avenue. The facility would be run by the Mental Health Services Department and have case management on site in the hopes of reducing homelessness in this area. A 500-bin facility run by the city opened up in Sherman Heights in June of 2018, but the city says that site is at capacity. City Council President Georgette Gomez volunteered to find a location for a new site in her district last month. Right now, there are a lot of people living in RVs in this area. They stay here because they say it's close to a trucking stop, so they feel comfortable parking here overnight. Many of them consider themselves homeless and say they have mixed feelings about the proposed facility being placed right here.
No, I think they should put it more closer to within the City Heights area, where most of the homeless are. If they put around the North Gate area over there off 42nd Street, University, someone in that area.
For all the people that are living here, they would probably make us all move, but if they don't, yeah, it's a good idea. There's got to be places for people to put stuff. It wouldn't be easy for them to get here. They'd have to take buses and stuff, and there's only one bus route over here off 54th, and it'd just be difficult. It needs to be more down towards downtown.
A spokesperson for the mayor's office told me in a statement, quote, expanding the city's storage capacity is a key step toward reducing homelessness as it provides individuals a chance to safely store their belongings while they work to get their lives back on track. The mayor's office will be holding a town hall for people in this area to express their concerns about this proposed facility on July 11th. And you can find more details about that town hall on our website, kpbs.org. Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
The San Diego County Board of Supervisors is considering a proposal to build more than 1,100 houses in a rural area bordering Chula Vista and Jamul. KPBS reporter John Carroll is live outside the county administration building with the passionate arguments made by supporters and those opposed to the project.
Maya, the proposal is called Adara at Otay Ranch. It's the latest piece of development in the Otay Ranch area since development began there in the mid-90s. Now, what you're going to see right now coming up is an aerial view of the Adara Ranch area where it would be built. It's a nearly 1,300-acre site, a quarter of a mile northeast of Chula Vista's eastern border and a half mile from Jamul. This video of the proposed project is also from the developer Jackson Pendo of Bonita. Last October, the County Planning Commission recommended approval with certain conditions, among them the widening of Proctor Valley Road, which would still remain a two-lane route, also a $1 million indemnification agreement with the county, which Jackson Pendo would have to pay should the county be successfully sued. Now, of course, there were passionate arguments from people in support and those in opposition to the project. First, we're going to hear from a supporter who echoed what a lot of supporters said.
Shortages, we're building 1/3 of what is needed. This has to go ahead. This project is amazing. It simply addresses all of the issues that people argue about. They address every single one of them. I'm not urging you, I'm begging you to say yes to this project and stop saying no to housing projects.
The developer promises all the homes and other buildings in the village area would be built to the highest fire safety standards. The main issue with those opposed to the project is their contention that evacuating in the case of a fire would be extremely difficult. Think of the situation in Paradise, California last year.
In an emergency, SR 94 becomes a parking lot. It's ludicrous to suggest that SR 94, already designated in the poorest rating, remember, it's rated F, would be able to take all the cars from our Humboldt residents, coupled with the Humboldt casino traffic, and put in an additional 10,000 cars from this development as a viable alternative in an emergency.
Now, I have just received word from upstairs that public testimony is over, but now county supervisors are discussing it, asking questions of county staff and whatnot. They should be voting pretty soon, and we will have the details for you on KPBS Radio coming up tomorrow morning, and also, of course, as always, at kpbs.org. Live tonight along the Embarcadero, John Carroll, KPBS News.
Thanks, John. The defense begins its case in favor of Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher. Gallagher is accused of several war crimes, including killing a teenage prisoner in Iraq. KPBS military reporter is live now. Steve Walsh is live.
Yeah, that's right, Maya. So the defense started today with the Marine general that was in charge in Mosul in 2017. Colonel Andrew Christian says Mosul was the worst fighting he had seen in his entire career. There were questions over whether they could trust the Iraqis that they were working with. Now, he pointed out that under the rules of engagement, they could fire to defend themselves, the Iraqis, or to protect civilians, but never at unarmed civilians. Now, that's key because, remember, obviously many people were killed in Iraq in 2017. It's a matter of, did Gallagher follow the rules? Now, asked if Gallagher contributed to the success in Mosul, the colonel said, certainly, yes. So we also heard from a SEAL Petty Officer Josh Gaffam, who said he had never saw Gallagher take a shot that wasn't necessary. He was Gallagher's spotter. He disputes a witness that says Gallagher shot an elderly civilian. The man he saw appeared to be younger and an ISIS fighter, though it's not clear that the two witnesses saw the same incident. Prosecution witness describes a man in white carrying a water jug who was much older. Gaffam says the man was in black and did not have a water jug. One other witness we heard from was Marine Raider Gunnery Sergeant Josh Vanderpool. He said he liked Gallagher, who started as a corpsman in the Marines before he became a SEAL. He said Gallagher had an aggressive SEAL mindset, but he also said Gallagher's platoon was becoming increasingly frustrated with him as time went on. Reporting from Naval Base San Diego, Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Thanks, Steve. Residents throughout the county will receive an earthquake alert on their phones tomorrow morning. It's the first time the county and the second time the state is testing out this new warning system. KPBS science and technology reporter Shalina Chatlani explains the test.
The system is called Shake Alert, and here at the San Diego Emergency Operations Center, employees have been preparing to roll it out this week.
You just bring a lot of power cords.
The system is designed to detect the first round of shock waves released when an earthquake strikes. It then warns residents via a phone alert before the slower, more damaging waves arrive. Robert DeGroot is a scientist at the U.S. Geological Services. He says it works much like an Amber Alert, which sends out a message to anyone within range of a cell phone tower.
This very important spot here, the epicenter, is where those sensors will first pick up that shaking. And we send that information really quickly back to processing centers to make a decision whether or not to issue a shake alert. So the key thing here is that these waves here, the faster waves, are moving about 4 miles per second. And we hope to get that message out ahead of these waves.
California started developing this statewide warning system with the U.S. Geological Survey back in 2016. San Diego is the second city in the state to test it. And it will be much larger than the one in Oakland because on Thursday, Shake Alert will reach millions of San Diego County residents who can expect to see this on their phones. Holly Porter is the director for the county's Office of Emergency Services.
When I was looking at the Shake Alert system, it said that you could be warned anywhere between a few seconds to up to a minute. But for a few seconds, what can really happen in that amount of time?
A few seconds, if we were standing in this room right now and I received an alert, I would look around and I would look for a sturdy object to duck cover and hold on to cover my head.
Porter also says in just a few seconds, surgeries can be stopped, trains can be slowed, and water pumps can be closed. But there's still a question of how people outside the range of a cell phone tower or signal can be warned.
There are a variety of different ways that first responders can alert and warn the public during a disaster. We have technological solutions like Alert San Diego, where we call people's landline phones and their mobile phones. There's the wireless emergency alert system that we're exercising tomorrow. There's also old-fashioned door-to-door, police officers knocking on doors and telling people that they need to get out of harm's way. There's flyovers with loudspeakers.
Porter says around 1,000 residents will also receive a survey after the test, asking how long it took for them to get the message. Shalina Chatlani, KPBS News.
San Diego is trying to reduce the number of unnecessary repeat calls to 911. KPBS anchor Ebony Monet talked with the San Diego Fire Rescue Department about its work to identify those callers and get them the help they need.
San Diego authorities say more and more first responders are being called on to provide emergency mental health services. So much so that our emergency system has been strained. Just this week, San Diego officials and San Diego County officials announced that they're pumping more money into a program called RAP. Here to tell us more about RAP is Ann Jensen with the San Diego Fire Rescue Department. Welcome.
Thank you.
So what can you tell us about RAP?
The Resource Access Program is what we call RAP, and it was started as a pilot program in 2008 and expanded in 2010, and it addresses frequent 911 callers of the system. And roughly 1% of the population in San Diego generates almost 20% of the call volume that EMS receives. And so we have a group of specially trained paramedics who monitor the system and find people who are frequent callers. They're always vulnerable in some way, either having a social or medical difficulty. And our specially trained paramedics intervene and provide resources and connect them to resources, and they become their advocate to maintain longer term services.
Is this tied into the growing homeless population in any way?
Well, we have about 1,400 people who would be considered frequent 911 callers, and in that total group, about 55% of them are homeless. But when we move to a higher frequency of 911 utilization, like if we look at people who call more than 20 times per year, that's about 90% people experiencing homelessness. Or if we look at people who call more than 50 times per year, that's 100% of people who are experiencing homelessness.
And tell us more about the announcement this week. What additional resources are being put towards the RAP program?
The county has given us 2 PERT clinicians, mental health clinicians, which about 70% of our higher utilizers are suffering from some sort of mental illness, and so that's really helpful to us. So they've given us 2 PERT clinicians, and then AMR has also given us 2 paramedics, and then we have our fire department paramedics working too. So it's a good partnership between the 3 entities.
So how does the outreach team determine who needs help?
Our paramedics are trained to find patterns in data, and paramedics are required to document. There's a national database standard data dictionary that we document by, and we take that database and we transform it, and we run analytics on it in real time, and we find people who are either very vulnerable or very high in their 911 utilization. So the paramedics will look at this, and we have a system that they run through and find people, and they'll find our highest utilizers or our most vulnerable people, and they'll proactively make contact with them.
Once the outreach team identifies people in need, what types of services will they be linked to?
The paramedics and PERT clinicians will encounter that individual, and they'll go through a 5-point intervention cycle that always begins with stabilization, and people will never attach and be successful in services unless you end the immediate social, medical, or mental health crisis. And so the first stage is always to make sure that they're stable and that they can think properly and that they're not hungry and that they have the proper medications for their condition. So once they're stabilized, then our paramedics will look for the transitional and long-term services. And those are just services that are in the community, but it's very, our system of care can be complex to navigate through. And so the paramedic helps that individual navigate through those different services.
And ultimately, how will this help the county?
I think it helps the county, it helps the community, and it helps our personnel, in the streets. If you want to make a first responder really stressed out, they deal with emergencies every day, but if you want to stress out a first responder, then you make them feel helpless. And so when our emergency responders encounter social situations, they don't always know what to do. And so internally, we hope to relieve the stress on our personnel. And definitely, we are providing better care to our patients and making sure that they're getting the right services.
Thank you so much.
House representatives passed a $4.5 billion emergency package to help with the humanitarian crisis at the southern border. The border aid bill passed along party lines on Tuesday after last-minute changes and a full-court push by top Democratic leaders. If fully approved, the money will go toward thousands of migrant families and unaccompanied children detained after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. The Trump administration is currently being criticized over inhumane conditions inside the Border Patrol facility in Clint, Texas. Last week, an investigation discovered migrants lacked food, medical care, and found older children trying to care for toddlers. Before the vote, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi took to the podium to address how migrants are being treated.
Today, we found out that the administration is sending children back to a station in Clint, Texas, from where just days earlier, those children had been removed after enduring weeks without a shower or change of clothes. When visiting these children, one lawyer reported, the children are locked in their cells. They said they can't bring themselves to play because they are trying to stay alive in there. And yet last week, the Trump Department of Justice argued in court that the government should not have to provide children in custody with soap, toothbrushes, or beds. This situation is child abuse. It is an atrocity that violates every value we have, not only as Americans, but as moral beings.
And the White House has threatened to veto the House bill, saying it would negatively affect border security efforts. Global tensions are high amid President Trump's visit to the G20 summit. Tracy Brown from the Associated Press explains some of the dilemmas.
There's a wide array of issues on his plate as President Donald Trump heads to the G20 summit in Japan this week, escalating tensions with Iran.
In a few moments, I'll be signing an executive order imposing hard-hitting sanctions on the supreme leader of Iran.
Trump says the new sanctions follow a series of aggressions by Tehran and follow a last-minute decision of Trump's to hold a retaliatory military strike against Iran.
The president is untested, has no experience in dealing with military matters of this sort.
In response, Iran's President Hassan Rouhani warns of closing the door of diplomacy and mocks Trump as being afflicted by mental retardation. Then there are the stalled negotiations over reducing North Korea's nuclear capabilities. Indications that the U.S. is willing to resume talks with North Korea, fueled by the president's letter exchanges with leader Kim Jong-un.
Mr. President, what did your letter to Kim Jong-un say?
He actually sent me birthday wishes, but it was just a very friendly letter both ways.
After the first face-to-face meeting in Singapore, the second Trump-Kim summit, held last February in Hanoi, ended in failure.
North Korea is not a solved problem. President Trump implies it's on the way to solution. It is not. Very little has been accomplished in the years since Singapore.
American businesses and investors are looking to a highly anticipated meeting between U.S. and Chinese leaders on the G20 sidelines.
I think we'd like to see a little bit of progress with respect to the trade dispute with China, right?
The world's two largest economies have been embroiled in a trade war that has taken markets on a volatile roller coaster ride.
As you know, you may have read a couple of things about China.
The Osaka summit is the first opportunity Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping have had to thrash out their trade dispute since Trump said he was preparing to target the $300 billion in Chinese imports that he hasn't already hit with tariffs. Also on the sidelines, a planned meeting between Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin. The two leaders had a full-fledged summit in Helsinki, Finland, nearly a year ago. This week's meeting, their first encounter since Special Counsel Robert Mueller ended his investigation with no finding that the Trump campaign in 2016 conspired with Russia, although Mueller cited evidence that Russia meddled in that election. The meeting agenda remains a mystery, as does the outcome of that last meeting. Tracy Brown, Associated Press.
The environmental group Heal the Bay published its annual report card, which judges hundreds of beaches based on water quality. San Diego's beaches received a mixed review. KPBS reporter Milena Spitzer explains the results.
13 of 17 coastal counties, including San Diego, had lower than average grades for the wet season, with increased levels of bacteria and pollutants reported. Heal the Bay's water quality scientist Luke Ginger says that's due to heavy rainfall.
In the winter, it's generally good water quality at San Diego beaches, meaning most of the beaches get A's or B's during the winter, but only when it doesn't rain. When it rains, I don't have the exact percentage for you, but we see a decrease in water quality. That's when beaches in San Diego County can get C's, D's, or F's.
Climate change is one of the factors contributing to these low grades.
Climate change will increase the amount of rainfall in coastal California, as well as the amount of wildfires across the state. So rainfall washes pollutants from the land into the ocean, and wildfire pretty much exacerbates that issue.
A bad grade can have serious implications for swimmers, including ear, skin, and intestinal infections caused by bacteria like
total coliform, fecal coliform, also known as E. coli, and then Enterococcus. Those are the three fecal indicator bacteria that are measured.
It's not all bad news for beachgoers. In the summer months, when the rainfall is low, San Diego's beaches are mostly safe for swimming.
San Diego had 12 North County beaches listed on the honor roll with perfect water quality scores, including Carlsbad, Solana Beach, Cardiff, and Encinitas. None of San Diego's beaches made the Beach Bummer list, which ranks the state's 10 most polluted beaches.
It's safe to swim at most beaches. I would just recommend staying away from a storm drain. So do a survey of the beach when you show up, see if there are any storm drains. Look for little pools, little lagoons on the beach that can indicate the location of a storm drain. Stay at least 100 yards away from those.
Ginger says it's not just up to swimmers. San Diego should learn from cities like Long Beach that improved low grades through stormwater diversion and trash cleanup projects.
They should definitely start capturing more runoff, or at least treating it before it enters into the ocean. They should divert it into the sewage system so it doesn't just run untreated into the ocean.
This summer, you can find out whether your local beach is safe for swimming at beachreportcard.org. Milena Spitzer, KPBS News.
And if you're thinking about heading to the beach soon, in spite of the mixed reviews, the weather is looking up. Meteorologist Daji Aswad shows us what the rest of the week looks like.
Tonight, we're pretty calm, typical for this time of year. That June gloom still in effect, turning cloudy in San Diego with a low of 62. Across the region, if you're in the ocean side, you're looking at a low of 60. Coastal areas noticing the cloud cover as you head inland and out to the mountains, valleys, and deserts. Well, moonlit skies and dropping down to 52 in Mount Laguna tonight, 66 in Borrego Springs. We move into your Thursday, and we're going to notice a cooling trend across portions of California. For us, not necessarily going to feel that cool air right away. It will stay to our north. Also going to be noticing that in towards Nevada. There's still going to be an onshore flow, some gusty winds further inland. And then as you head into the desert, well, that warm air is very present for Phoenix, back even into Denver. Best chance for wet weather is going to be through New Mexico. So you don't need the umbrellas here tomorrow in Oceanside nor San Diego. We'll be looking at clouds during the morning hours, what we've been seeing over the past several days. That will continue to burn through. The clouds move on out and some sun comes out. You're looking at a high of 101 in Borrego Springs and 74 in Mount Laguna. Into the weekend, we still have some cooler air further to the north. As you head to the south where we are, our temperatures remain seasonable. So we're topping off in the mid-70s for your Friday in San Diego. 73 Saturday, low clouds then sun. We'll continue to see that trend all the way into the upcoming week. Inland areas, you're looking at highs in the 80s. We will notice some clouds for your Thursday inland areas, and that sun really comes on out. Better chance to see less cloud activity in the morning hours on your Saturday, and then better chance to see some more low clouds returning into your morning forecast for Sunday. Deserts, triple-digit highs Thursday and Friday. Topping off at 99 Saturday. Lots of sunshine to continue even into the upcoming week. And then as we move into your mountain areas, well, temperatures also feeling pretty seasonable. Topping off in the mid-70s Thursday, Friday. Lots of sunshine, so put on that sunscreen. Get the sunglasses out. Saturday comes along, lower 70s, but still not a lot of cloud cover. Will continue to remain dry and tranquil for the mountain areas into your Sunday and Monday, and in the mid-70s. Your overnight lows in the mountains going to be in the mid-50s for much of your extended forecast. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Daji Swad. Back to you.
And thanks for joining us. Have a good night.